If you're watching this channel, it's because you don't enjoy watching the world squander what Christendom built, and you want to do your part. Today I'd like to mention one means of doing just that. Email made by and for Catholics. Check out Fidei Email. That's FIDEI.email. Built for Catholic individuals, families, organizations, and groups. They're private, secure, and of course Catholic. God bless.
With the announcement of the Laudato Si vote of Mass by the Vatican, we can see how this thinking of focusing on care for our common home that is weirdly missing the gospel message has infected the church and its thinking. The gospel is about salvation of souls, the four last things, getting to heaven. And for whatever reason, we meaning the authorities in the church, not you and I, have replaced it with a vision of making a better world. It's a profound mistake that has very real consequences for all too many people. It's an elevation of worldly concerns that are often tied to the corporal works of mercy. And again, we should never dismiss the corporal works of mercy. The church should absolutely focus on the corporal works of mercy. But traditionally, the focus on the corporal works of mercy was to ensure that material deprivation or the evil deeds of evil rulers didn't prevent people from getting to heaven, that they didn't serve as a stumbling block to their salvation. That was the main thing. Plus, Jesus said it just plainly told us to help the poor. How we deal with the poor is how we deal with him, essentially. But he also told us, you will always have the poor with you. And he said that in relation to Judas complaining about all the fineries all the resources being used for expensive oils that are being applied to our Lord. You will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me with you, to paraphrase that part of the gospel. And the point of it is, yes, help the poor, but don't lose sight of right worship. Don't lose sight of Christ in all of this, and our relationship to Christ, which has to be right ordered. And they've supplanted a lot of this with creating a better world for purely material purposes, and it's right in all their language for this. And the ultimate form this takes is to let sacred spaces in the church be taken over for what some have criticized as having neo-pagan purposes, such as, I think it was this year or last year, when St. Peter's Basilica was used on Earth Day to have images of animals projected onto it with political slogans. That caused a lot of hard pushback from people, but they do something like this every year, right on that day. It's like one of the highest secular feast days, and they do it shamelessly. I have another example of this misuse of church property for what some are calling neo-pagan purposes here. So we go to CathCon, the Catholic Conclave blog, which has done a lot of great reporting lately, published on June 29th. Nature allowed to invade Catholic Church in symbol of ecological modernism, destroying the faith. There's a picture of it. What does that have to do with the Mass? What is this? You don't use parishes from anything other, at least like, your chapel, all the parts of your parish that are used for the holy sacrifice of the Mass. You don't use them for secular purposes. Jesus tossed the money changers out of the temple, overturned tables, because they were using the temple for secular purposes. Here are the details of this. Quote, within the historic walls of Gdansk St. John's Church, you can feel like you're in a forest. A space has just opened there, designed for all those seeking peace, quiet, and contact with nature in the summer hustle and bustle of the city. From June 27th to July 5th, 2025, the Cultural Center on the Baltic Sea invites visitors to visit a unique art installation called Lisnia. It is a space that combines elements of art, ecology, and sensory experience. The project is a response to sensory overload and the need for a short break from the intense rhythm of urban life. At a time when the Tri-City attracts crowds of open-air festival participants, the St. John's Center becomes a place of alternative relaxation. Lesnia offers a space of tranquility where you can breathe deeply, listen to the sounds of nature, and immerse yourself in a forest-like atmosphere. It is not a typical exhibition, but rather an open, dynamic installation that changes with the visitors. You can sit, lie down, stroll among the trees, or linger for a while. Each visit here is intended to be a unique individual experience. The project was realized in a historically and aesthetically charged space. The Gothic architecture of the temple was juxtaposed with vegetation and natural materials, creating a scenography with great visual power. The interior of the temple has taken on a new dimension, and its monumentality is emphasized by the contrast with organic forms of the plants. This juxtaposition opens the field for new interpretations of architecture and the relationship between humans and nature. Let's pause there. That is a great way to describe the problem. The Mass is first and foremost a representation of the sacrifice our Lord made on Calvary. There's certainly an element in the Mass, key to the liturgical debates, by the way, between the traditional Mass and the Novus Ordo, about the relationship between God and man. And they just turned this parish into something that highlights the relationship between humans and nature. Begin to see the problem here. The experience of Lesnia engages all the senses. So does the Mass. The soundscape created by the artist evokes a state of tranquility, and the fragrant compositions of another artist complete the impression of the forest presence. The installation is enriched with performative and musical elements that appear in unexpected ways. This is all about artisticness and sustainability, the key values of the secular world. At the St. John's Center, which has been managed by Baltic Sea Cultural Center for 3 decades, artistic experiments and activities regularly take place that redefine its function. The function of a parish is to hold the holy sacrifice of the Mass and to make the sacraments available to the laity, including penance or reconciliation, if you prefer, and baptism, and of course the Eucharist and whatever else might be needed. That's its function. Regularly take place that redefine its function. At least they're being honest with us here. That's what they're doing. Now, ecology is a big word. If you don't know what it means, if you're not a nerd about these kind of things, like I used to be when I wrote my doctoral dissertation, and honestly, it's one of the issues that when people ask you, Anthony, what radicalized you? What made you into an angry, meanie-headed trad? Well, it was this issue, and the churches will answer to it. Here's the definition of ecology. This comes from biologydictionary.net. Okay, this is one of those websites that dispassionately gives you what the meaning of all the words all these people use. Here's their definition. Ecology is the branch of biology that studies how organisms interact with their environment and other organisms. Every organism experiences complex relationship with other organisms of its species and organisms of different species. These complex interactions lead to different selective pressures on organisms. The pressures together lead to natural selection, which causes populations of species to evolve. Ecology is the study of these forces, what produces them, and the complex relationship between organisms and each other, and organisms and their non-living environment. Scientists can view ecology through a variety of different lenses, from the microscopic molecular level all the way to the planet as a whole. These different types of ecology will be focused further on. We won't go into that today. At every level of ecology, the focus is on the selective pressures that cause evolutionary change. These pressures arise from a variety of different sources, and there are numerous methods for observing and quantifying this data. End quote. And that's right from the horse's mouth. Okay, this is what they're using that parish for. This is what Laudato Si was for, to bring the language of natural selection into the Catholic lexicon. Believe them when they tell you what they're doing. I frequently bring this up. Post-conciliar order, meaning everything from 1965 or so on to today, has been about a focus on man, his needs, and making a better world. And a lot of less and less emphasis on the gospel, and especially on this thermometer issue, virtually no mention of the gospel. They have supplanted worship of the Creator for worship of the created. That's what they've done. Unintentionally. Or maybe intentionally. Depends on the person involved. And as I, cited another time, National Catholic Reporter asked a good question for once. What will Pope Leo's response to all this be? We shall see. But he has positively quoted the document for this numerous times. Curious what you think about all this, so let me know in the comments, please. I should cut the screen to edit out ads. I can't. I don't know what you mean, cut the screen. The ads are there, and our hosts do not like applications that try to prevent those advertisements from popping up. They block people from using their website entirely, and I can't risk that. So they're there. I don't know why people get so offended by that. Catherine Hickory says natural selection is a diabolical deception. Darwin married his cousin, I think. Yeah, that's generally true. It's generally worth reminding ourselves that at least on the pre-conciliar calendar, and this is making a comeback among conservatives who go to the ordinary form of the Mass as well. There were the Rogation days. There were the Ember days. There are Ember days every season. Catholic faith is tied naturally to the cycle of the seasons, which means the cycle of creation. But those days are all about fasting and penance. It is true. It is completely fine to be angered at people, disrespecting God and his artistry and his great gift of creation to all of us. It is perfectly right and just to do that. We certainly do owe great respect to God and the things the works of his hands. But that cannot take our eyes off creation, or off of rather the salvation of souls. We have to keep our eye on the prize. And this is why this issue cannot be overlooked. And it's why we will learn a great deal about the goals of this pontificate as it happens. I'm curious, though, what you think about all this. So let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps too. Not trying to whip you up in anger against anybody here. Pray for them instead. Pray that all the things we covered today will be, when the news rolls out about this stuff, and as this stuff continues to get implemented, it's done with the salvation of souls in mind and aligns with the will of God and not some secular ideological program of man. And if you've ever thought about supporting the work we do here at Return to Tradition, you can do so through the description box below. Patreon, Subscribe Star, all those things. They do help keep these daily messages coming. All those options, by the way, were asked for by viewers of the channel, so I gave them to them. It does help keep these daily messages coming. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.